Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Namaskar. Welcome to another session on English literature. Me and my colleague here with me, Miss Namita Sharma.
Namaste.
We will both be giving some information and maybe some kind of lecture, probably a conversational lecture on the very famous, very popular play She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith. You would like to say something about Oliver Goldsmith? We will begin by talking about Oliver Goldsmith. We will then, of course, go on to talk about She Stoops to Conquer. Why, in spite of having been written 100 years after the restoration actually took place, why do we still consider She Stoops to Conquer as a restoration comedy is going to be one of our main agendas of talking about She Stoops to Conquer. But to begin with, we will begin the lecture, we'll begin our talk rather, by looking into the life of Oliver Goldsmith a little. Let us come to the first slide on your screen. That is Oliver Goldsmith's photograph, born in
1728.
I'm sorry, 1728. He died in 1774 and he was born in Ireland. That means he was an Irish. Let's look a little more into his life. Goldsmith's father was a clergyman. Clergyman in the sense he was a priest. Goldsmith was sent to Trinity College, Cambridge. That means a Trinity College affiliated with Cambridge University. But in the college, Goldsmith became very unpopular because of his rude behavior. He was not very pleasant, it seems. After his college days, Goldsmith decided to migrate to America, but of all the reasons why he couldn't go to America, the most strange one, he missed his ship. So that is one reason why he could not go to America.
And thank goodness, madam, otherwise we would not have had She Stoops to Conquer and the other works that he had created.
Very true. Looking a little closer into his life, he was a teacher at one time. But once again, see, this life is very interesting. He lost his position as the result of a quarrel. Maybe it must have been a quarrel with the authorities in the school, but he lost that position. Now, after losing that position, Goldsmith then decided to study law. But then, very interestingly, look at the next detail on your slide. When he was 24 years old, Goldsmith went to Edinburgh to study medicine. So, there are so many different disciplines that he was occupying his student life with. And then, finally, from Edinburgh, Goldsmith went to Leiden to continue with his studies. So, it has been, so to speak, an extremely colorful student life, or rather extremely colorful youth, where he was flitting across from one profession to another.
And this is a strange twist of fate, Shubha madam, because see, he wanted to be a teacher, then he decided to be a student of law. Tried his hand perhaps at medicine. But imagine, he found his name and fame in writing.
That's exactly the point that we were coming to, that after trying his hand at so many professions, finally he began his career by writing some articles for a number of periodicals. Let us not forget, friends, that this was the age where the periodicals were at the rise. Now, these periodicals were very many. For example, the Bee, the Busybody, the Ladies Magazine, and the Public Ledger.
And we need to tell our students here that they would be familiar, quite acquainted with the Tatler and the Spectator.
Absolutely.
You must remember, as ma'am mentioned, that this was the time when the periodicals came into being due to, thankfully, the printing press.
Okay.
And there was more of the reading public. So people enjoyed reading.
All right.
And these, of course, the names on your screen are the magazines to which Goldsmith contributed.
Okay.
But there were several more, as of course, as I mentioned, Addison and Steele popularized the Tatler and the Spectator.
The second detail on the slide is actually very interesting to know about Goldsmith's life. If we go through the collection of his essays, we can very easily see the rise in his fame and popularity. So, what you correctly pointed out at the very beginning, ma'am, in spite of having tried his hand at so many different professions, it was writing where he actually found solace, fame, popularity, and then, of course, later on, monetary benefits also. If we look at Goldsmith's life, he has written not only poems, dramas, but he was a novelist also. He is credited with having written two very important poems in English, The Traveller and The Deserted Village. What is notable is that both are written in the heroic couplet, the same form that Alexander Pope used for Rape of the Lock. Looking at Goldsmith as the novelist, he wasn't a regular novelist. I mean, he has not written too many novels. If I am not mistaken, he wrote only The Vicar of Wakefield. But this is a delightful novel. Later on, we will find many other authors of English literature quoting from this novel, mentioning this novel in their novels. Charles Dickens, for example, has gone on record to say that this was one of the most delightful novel he has ever read.
And we would like to tell our students here, as ma'am mentioned, he wrote only one novel.
Okay.
But it is not the quantity but the quality that matters.
All
if you
right.
remember, students, Emily Bronte
Right.
wrote only one novel in her lifetime,
The Wuthering Heights.
The Wuthering Heights.
Okay.
And yet it is one of the best novels ever written in English literature.
Very true. Not only for the Victorian age, but
Throughout all the ages in English literature.
All right. So we really wondered, ma'am, if he had written maybe a couple more novels, we would have had a few more gems.
Exactly, ma'am.
If we just take a little closer look at the Deserted Village, it was in the 1760s. Goldsmith witnessed the demolition of an ancient village and destruction of its farms in order to clear land. And why this land was being cleared? So that it could become a wealthy man's garden. And that was something which really disturbed and which moved Goldsmith so much that he wrote one of the greatest poems of English literature, actually, The Deserted Village.
And we need to tell our students here that this was also the age of the Industrial Revolution,
Okay.
when the villagers, they were flocking to the cities, the towns, in search of not only livelihood but of course a better way of living as well. So that is why the villages were being deserted, and this really pained Goldsmith, and he put this down in this poem, The Deserted Village.
Okay. So the Deserted Village also talks about the rural-urban migration.
Definitely.
Okay. The Deserted Village was published in 1770, and it very importantly and significantly, it expresses a fear that the destruction of villages and the conversion of land from productive agricultural land to ornamental landscape gardens. Ultimately, who would be ruined by this phenomenon? It would be the peasants, the farmers, who obviously would be residing in the rural areas of England. And that is something which really pained Goldsmith, and one can sense that pain if one goes through the Deserted Village. Taking our discussion a little further on Goldsmith's novel, Vicar of Wakefield. It was written in 1761 and 1762, and it was published in 1766. So that means he took quite a long time to write the novel, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was mentioning earlier, this novel, Vicar of Wakefield, finds mention in several other novels, such as Emma, which was written by Jane Austen. Middlemarch, written by
George
Eliot, and David Copperfield, of course, Dickens. And as I have already mentioned, that Dickens considered The Vicar of Wakefield as one of the most delightful novels, and in fact was actually inspired greatly by very many characters. So this is a landmark milestone creation by Goldsmith. What The Vicar of Wakefield consists, it is actually the story of Dr. Primrose, his wife Deborah, and their 6 children. And it is basically a family story, what happens to their relationships within the family unit, what goes wrong and what rights itself. Now, though literary historians interpret it as a sentimental novel, actually it can be read as a satire on sentimentality. Now this was in direct contrast to what the kind of novels that Richardson was writing at that time.
Exactly. And critics have also mentioned that Dr. Primrose, the character of Dr. Primrose, was based on Goldsmith's own father, who was also a clergyman.
All right.
As you mentioned earlier.
Okay. All right. Let's come to the next slide then. Let us take a look at Goldsmith as a dramatist and his achievements. Actually, when we are talking about She Stoops to Conquer, we are definitely looking at Goldsmith as a dramatist. The Good-Natured Man, that was the title of his very first play, and sadly, probably like it is the case with every great dramatist, it did not meet with much success on the stage. But 3 years later, it was followed by the immensely successful and a very well written play called She Stoops to Conquer, or The Mistakes of a Knight. This was, as history has noted, it was a grand success. It went on playing on the London stage for a very, very long time. And what is interesting is to note the last detail on our slide. In 1778, John O'Keefe wrote a loose sequel, Tony Lumpkin in Town. Madam, you would like to shed some light on Tony Lumpkin?
Tony Lumpkin proved to be such a popular character
from She Stoops
to Conquer, that John O'Keefe tried to write a loose sequel. Of course, it did not meet the same popularity that She Stoops to Conquer did. In fact, She Stoops to Conquer, even 200 years after, continues to be the most staged play of English literature, even today. In modern times also, it has repeatedly been staged as well as created, taken up by television. They have also made a documentary on She Stoops to Conquer.
So however, the sequel could not live up to the
expectations that John O'Keefe had expected.
I believe this must be a one singular case wherein a character from the play became so famous. I mean, you have many sequels written on the entire work, but this is perhaps one-off example where a sequel is being written on the
particular character,
and a character which was not the main character.
Yes.
So that is stupendous. I mean, it talks greatly about the way the character was created. So that is Goldsmith as a dramatist and his achievements. These are some other works that he has written. For example, in 1760, Goldsmith began to publish a series of letters in the Public Ledger. Public Ledger we have already mentioned in our lecture earlier. It was a periodical. But he wrote this interestingly under the title The Citizen of the World. I mean, a country like England, which only from the last 2 centuries was coming to grip with itself as a nation. From that particular country, you have a writer who is now widening his horizon so much that he is calling himself and considering himself to be the citizen of the world. I mean, that is, I believe, a very interesting detail to be noted. Now, what was this citizen of the world? It was, they were letters actually written by a Chinese traveler in England and his name was Leon Shee. They used this fictional outsider's perspective to comment ironically and at times moralistically on British society and manners. So it was maybe an outsider whose garb, whose disguise, or rather a pseudonym was being used in order to comment on the immorality or maybe the over sentimentality or the artificialness maybe of the British public.
Interestingly, madam, not only Goldsmith but even Addison and Steele attempted to write in this manner. They took up travelers from usually the Orient, and they tried to show their own people, the British audience, how a foreigner saw England of the time with their eyes.
Okay.
So this was not something that was done just by Goldsmith, but many other writers of the time.
So it was customary, or rather
yes,
practice
yes.
of the day.
Yes.
Okay. Let's just take a look at some other works. The ironic poem, An Elegy on the Death of a Mad Dog. That's interesting that this was published in 1766. Goldsmith is also thought to have written the classic children's tale, The History of Little Goody Two Shoes. And he is also the author of the Natural History, which dealt with the histories of England, Rome and Greece. But these were political and social histories. These
That's
were
right.
not literary histories.
Yes.
They were political histories. But once again, if we are looking at the amount of work and the kind of work that Goldsmith has written, probably his range was wider than anyone else, any one of his contemporaries. So this is, I'm sure our friends have got a very fair idea about Goldsmith, his life, and the kind of works that he has written.
Definitely. I mean, he tried